Thank you so much, Alfred, for joining us for this Q&A about your short film, I Still Breathe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Alfred, you started your career as a photographer, specializing in music, portraiture, dance, and street photography.
Yeah.
And you are also a musician.
Wow. Yes, I am. I actually, if we did the order in the way that my life started, I was a musician first, and then moved into the photography after. Um, that journey actually led me, being a musician, led me into doing photography and film work, which is quite funny. That has happened. Being, a musician, being there with other musicians, hanging out, having a camera, and once you're in, it's like being part of the family. They see you with a camera, they don't pay any attention. But as soon as it's press, or like a proper, like a photographer who is like a press photographer, the musicians change their stance. So I have a lot of very intimate and what's the word for it, very personal photos of really, of friends who are musicians, and people who I've worked with.
And I think when I watched this film, I felt like somehow the film was a good way for you to combine all these skills and also your interests. Um, and I wanted to know about that journey as well. Like, how do you manage to kind of find in film that way to combine all of these things?
That's a really good question. My first two features, as I'm sure you've done your homework, I shot and directed myself and did the sound, produced tracks for the soundtrack, took stills, just did pretty much everything, and the first one was out of definitely necessity, and also because it just happened that way. And it was using skills that I had learnt along the way. And the second one was budget and necessity, but it was a tighter filming schedule. But yes, my work now, I have to say, I Still Breathe a shot, and by an amazing DOP who I've worked with now for a couple of jobs, Matteo Bancrazzi. He's amazing, and his attention to detail. And when you have a relationship with someone where you don't, we just look at each other, and he'll look at me and go, and I'll know that I can't have what I want, and then I'll look at him and go, and then he'll go, yeah, okay. It's a great relationship, and he has such an incredible eye, and finding someone who can interpret what you have in here is is a great thing. But I've, for the most part, had to do it myself. So you learn. I think I did it because I was really hungry, and I still am very hungry to tell stories. But if you have something to say, you will go out and say it. So this is the reason why at that time it was a situation where I just had to go and do it and use the skills which I'd gained over the years of being a photographer, musician, and I used to paint, but let's not talk about that.
I
We'll
do,
leave that one.
no, I do think you definitely bring that aesthetics to your work from that previous experience, and I think
Thank you.
that's really really incredible. And I mean, it's really interesting to also see you applying this interdisciplinary approach in a way to this
Yeah.
specific topic. Um, and can you tell me a bit more about that process, like how that also relates with your own experience growing up in London as a Black man?
Wow. Um, no, this is a more serious question, and I think along the journey I've had, I was really fine. I didn't suffer any racism until much, much later in my life, and which is quite ironic because I think a lot of people have had stuff happen to them earlier on, and then when I was a kid, I went to kind of like a Church of England school, and then onto a grammar school, and there you would think things like that would happen, but no one ever said anything. I know I have a very clear memory of that time period, and no one ever said or did anything to me like that. I never felt in any way abused racially or anything. Um, I was told to come in a lot because I like to play outside all the time, but growing up in London later on, when I started to get into the creative arts, and when I started to work, you know, as a young man, that's when it first happened to me to have my first incident of a racist incident, or a slight, or something that felt like, yeah, I'm being treated a little bit differently here, and this feels strange, and I don't like it. And I felt upset, and I felt quite emotional about it. And I think when you grow, I always wanted to use my creative skills and my talents to tell those stories, or to emotionally exercise those ghosts, I think is the right way to put it. Because, you know, you can get angry and shout and kick doors in, which, you know, and everybody's entitled to express themselves. But I think if you're clever, and if you use intelligence, and if you have hope in your heart, which is what this film's about. I mean, essentially, I'm trying, hope I'm not jumping ahead of myself, but that's the thing. You've got to believe that what you're doing will change people's view. And I thought I wanted to use the things that I've learned for change, not just tell angry stories, or be really, you know, just all the time. That's not, it's not who I am, for a start. So
Interesting. Um, and what was the process behind like getting to this specific group of people? Um,
um, that's a good question. How it started was a friend of mine named Simon Long, who's a music lawyer. And every time Simon introduces me to somebody, it turns into an amazing journey. It's just so true. It's actually quite funny. So Simon says to me, "Are you going to meet this guy, Tam? You've seen the film. It's the person at the very end that
okay.
tells this story. You know who it is."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the longer hair.
And he has a great smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Tam he's a complete sweetheart, a great musician, and I was just going to socially distance, do a photo shoot for his new EP. Yeah, sure. So Simon introduced us. We started to speak on FaceTime, and then we arranged to do a shoot the following week. That weekend, the Black Lives Matter marches were all on. So I said, "Listen, I'll call you on Monday. Really looking forward to doing our shoot. We'll arrange Monday. We'll call to arrange what day next week we're going to do it. Have a great weekend." So the Friday, another friend of mine who is the music supervisor for Jim Marshall, Ian Neal, calls me and says, "Oh, Alfred, I'm sorry we haven't had a chance to meet. There's COVID, blah, blah, blah. We've got to go this, we've got to do that." But, you know, and I said, "Yeah, yeah." And he said to me, so, because I did photojournalism, I mean, just self-taught. I just went out there and shot. That's how I started in a way. You know, I love to just photograph what's around and life and stuff that's going on. He says, "Are you going to go down to the marches and shoot?" And I was like, "Do you know, I just don't feel it. Like, I'm not feeling it." And he says, "You know what? Whatever you do, I'm sure you're going to do something really special." And I said, "Well, we'll see." But I just really didn't expect. I didn't feel. Of course, I believe in what's going on, and I wanted to do something. I wanted my voice to be heard in some way about the horrors that have been going on in America and here and around the world. But I didn't want it to just be my usual grab a camera. And I know a lot of photojournalists, and perhaps for, you know, who work for Getty and Reuters and, you know, AP, Associated Press, all of the agencies, they'll all be there photographing. And I know a lot of these, and some street photographers, you know, really well known ones. Everybody would have been out. And I just thought, I don't want to be, nah. So I speak to Tam on Monday. Let's arrange a shoot. And I said to him, "What did you do over the weekend?" He said he went to the marches. I said, "Oh, wow, how was he?" He said it was deeply emotional. And I said, "Do you know what? I hope you don't mind, but when we meet to do our shoot, I could film you. I want you to tell me about that experience." I just was just for myself. I wasn't, you know. And then something inside me said, "Ask him who he went with." So I said to him, "Who did he go with?" He said, "8 of my friends." I said, "Well, do you think they'll be interested in talking?" And he went, "They'd love it." He goes, "I'll set up a FaceTime meeting." So he had his phone like this. I was saying hi to everybody. And they were all excited about wanting to talk and say their piece. Another friend, the editor of Jim Marshall, Adam Biskupski, we spoke, and I told him about this idea, and he just went, "This is all happening in a very short space of time." Literally, that was the morning. In the afternoon, in the evening, I was talking about this idea, and he said, you've really got to take this. You got to do this. Like Alfred, he goes, this is an opportunity. So I said, yeah, I know. I can really feel it. Then modern films, Betty Aldiss jumped on board as producer, who does the distribution for my Jim Marshall documentary. And it was just literally one person after I spoke to Mateo. He says, I'm going to crew it up. This is going to be something special. And it grew and grew and grew to I was standing at the Battersea Arts Centre, this amazing building with all of these people. And the Battersea Arts Centre, they were so amazing. They were so giving to us. They had two of the interviewees were alumni of an outreach program they have for young women. I'm not going to say too much, but there's two of the women in there who are very, very powerful in there, are from there. And they said, if you'd like, we have young people in the community who would love to talk. I said, yes, please, yeah. We had somebody who was doing the COVID stuff, so everybody who came in was temperature, mask, gel, into the bar area. It was like literally a military campaign with steady cams and amazing lighting. It was like it was a film set, and a proper film set. And it was the first that anybody had done since it was towards the end of lockdown. So when things were starting to free up, and then we heard that Batman was reshooting again, and other things were opening up. And friends of mine who are like lighting guys and gaffers and riggers and cameramen, they were all slowly going back to work, So I thought, I don't want to sit around. And I was writing as well. I'm working on a couple of scripts, and I just thought, I don't want to sit around. I've got something to say. And then it just grew. I mean, the funniest thing that happened when all the kids were together, the young people, they said to me, do you have the questions? I said, yep. They said, are you going to share them? I went, nope. And they said, are you sure? I said, yep. I said, do you know what you're going to say? Yes. And they were all laughing. I said, look, if you're too prepared, then it's not going to be real. I knew what I wanted to ask. And then once I started to introduce myself to the people and who came in one after the other, and I said, look, I just talked to them, and I just thought, I think I know how I'm going to, I think I know the questions I'm going to ask, because everybody's different. Like if you came and we got talking, I'd have a general idea. I think the question is going to go this way, or the conversation will go that way. And I don't really speak very much in interviews, not like now. I only talk at the very beginning, and then I'll let them stream of consciousness or whatever they want to say. Because I said to them, if you want to stand in front of the camera and scream, do it. If you burst into tears and you cry because you're emotional, this is your time to say exactly what's on your mind, what's in your heart, and how you feel, whatever that may be.
And I mean, understanding that process now allows me to also understand why it feels that they are really in a very safe environment. Like we are filming them, and they're opening up their hearts, and and it's interesting when you also have two people on the same plan, and they're even like thinking about what the other is saying and different perspectives, and there is like a dialogue almost.
Yes.
Which I think it's beautiful, and I think it
Thank
also
you.
comes from the fact that they all already knew each other, and there is also this like almost external energy that is even bringing them even more together, I think. And I feel that George Floyd's assassination was definitely a moment that has shed new light on the Black Lives Matters. I mean, this is something it's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
We've seen the protests. We've seen this is a topic that a lot of people are speaking about now, not just in UK politics, but also the election in the US. There is definitely more attention on this topic, more than there has probably been, and it's really important to see that. But like someone says in the film, this is not going to be an easy change, and it will take time, and it will be a long process. And like you were saying, I think your film is a way for you to contribute to that change. What other things people like me could do to contribute to that change as well?
This is actually that's a good question. Do you know what I believe? I think, and you appear to me to be someone who's open, and you want to listen, you want to hear. And that's the thing. Don't look at other people as the other. I mean, get to know somebody. I mean, in every walk of life, there's going to be people who are good and bad. That's a prerequisite. There's no changing that. But for the most part, most people on earth are, they want the same things. You know, they want to have a roof over their head. They want to eat. They want to, if they have children, they want to make sure that they're taken care of. They want a good job. They want to feel special. You want to feel like, you know, your contribution, your time on earth, you've done something that's, you know, you brought your children up right. So for you, I think just being open, I think being someone who's willing to listen, someone who's willing to, I mean, doing this as well is great. This whole being involved in Raindance, and thank you for taking the film on. That's really, I'm really, we were all touched, and we're all very excited. You know, shame it's not in competition, but hey, I think it would have done well. I mean, I just think it's one of those films that it needs to be seen, and what you're doing by showing it is great. So thank you so much. But for you, just if you feel in your heart you want to just talk to someone, talk to them, find out. Read, look at stuff, go and look at artists, go and see people singing, do everything. Just find out about what other people do. I think that opens the door, and you'll find out that most people are exactly the same as each other. The food might be different to them for the most part, you know, and the way you dress or whatever, but inside we're all pretty much the same. So I think for you, I can only just tell you just to be open and have hope, and within that hope, just grab that feeling inside you and go and whatever. It could be a tiny thing. Most change is incremental. Massive things happen like wars and this and that, but change yeah, exactly. Change change usually is little tiny increments, and then there is a big thing, and then more little change, and you know, it's steady. Because I don't think as humans, if things change suddenly, like look what's happened. COVID-19 is day and night. It's sudden change. People who thought I don't like people getting close to me, now they're like, I need to talk to someone and I need to be next to someone, because they don't realize how much you need as a human being. You need the fellowship of other people. You need to feel close. If you're sitting next to someone that you started to get to know, and it's nice to feel someone near you in close proximity. And when your friends, you see them and you hug them and you just go, oh, it's so great to see you. And if you feel like you're being stopped from being close, it will cause major mental problems, mental issue problems. It's gonna, I do believe it's happened for a reason. And also, I think we do need to reset a lot of our beliefs and what we do. And I think George Floyd, if it wasn't him, if that guy behind the counter didn't call the police and just said, get him out of here with that fake money, and they laughed about it, it wouldn't have been him, it would have been somebody else. Because too much has gone on for it to be, in America, for it not to have happened. I'm worried that they're on the brink of civil war, and even if you don't think it is because of what's going on. And I worry for my friends and family out there. I have 98% of my family are in America, and a lot of my friends are there. So, you know, and I've traveled there, as you know, with my films quite a lot, and it's worrying. I'm born and bred in London, and I love this place so much, and I can see the differences when I come back, and I see there's no demarcation lines between classes and races. Some people could be in $1 million house there, in the council estate there. Most people don't really care, even if you're in a council estate or you're in that, as long as they can get along and respect each other, it's fine. But in America, the lines are just, you do not cross this line, and people do stay in their sections. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think your answer kind of touched a little bit on my next question, which is about the global pandemic and the fact that at some point someone in the film mentions this. So our world has been turned upside down,
Upside down. Yeah.
and I really like that. And I do want to believe that this is the beginning of something good, and this is kind of a resetting point for something good. But also in the film, we have some people that are not as positive about it, and I wanted to understand what's your position on that. Do you think this is a good moment to reset and really change? And I do think if that's the case, it's more important than ever to really embrace that and to really work towards that. Or is it going to kind of going back to what it was before, or even worse?
Um, Another great question. I don't believe it's ever going to go back to any kind of reality that we knew before. And I remember, I know who it was who said that, you know, the whole world is literally, he said, literally being turned upside down. But that in the film, if you notice, is the bridge of hope. From that point onward, everything changed. It had to start the way it started. And I already know when I make films how it's pretty funny. I know the beginning and the end. It's just the middle bit I don't know. So in answer, you know, and one of the other ladies said something really tough. As you know, I don't want to give it away, but she said something really quite, you know, and for someone as beautiful looking as that to have those feelings of such,
Yeah.
you know, it was a lot of rage and there was a lot of anger, but not in a negative, nobody swore. They were free to say what they wanted, but not one of them did, which is actually really something. And it tells me a lot about those young people, how respectful they were. I do, they needed to say what was going on in their hearts. I didn't want to basically interfere with that, and I didn't. Wow. You know, I'm wondering how I would be if I was in their shoes at their age, how I would have articulated myself and how, but the world is a different place from when I was young. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough that there is a marked difference. And it's been accelerating over the last 20 years. It's gone from 0 to 200 miles an hour in terms of information, too much information, too many images, too much stuff. And I think we're kind of being sick of regurgitating. And if you look at when COVID hit first time in the first 2 months, I've never seen the sky so blue. I've never felt like peace and quiet. It was still. There was a stillness, and everybody stopped because you had to stop. No planes were flying. It was like, and then apparently from space over China and those industrial areas, it cleared up within 4 weeks. That tells you how powerful the earth is, how strong it is, and how strong it can recover if we stop messing with it. And these kids are politically, environmentally, and socially aware. So, no, they couldn't. I didn't want to interfere in any way with what they were saying. And did it affect me? No, I wasn't surprised. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised that I got so much out of them. And it's almost like you flick a switch and then they just literally all poured out, you know, because the interviews are all really long. There's hours and hours of footage, but that was the hard part. Maybe I'm jumping ahead again. I blame you for that.
No, I think it's really interesting because I completely agree with you. I think during the lockdown was really almost magical what was happening. The whole
Yeah,
world was quiet, and people were like rethinking a lot about their lives. And but what I'm
yeah,
feeling at the moment is that somehow we're trying to quickly kind of catch up, and we're like kind of running like, oh no, we need to kind of make sure that the economy is back to what it was. And I'm afraid that will somehow put us in a worse position than we were before the pandemic. So that's why I'm still kind of wondering which way are we going. I mean, definitely the elections in the US will be an interesting thing to kind of
Yeah,
measure.
I was having a conversation with a really dear friend of mine, and he's incredibly politically, and he lives out in Pennsylvania. He's Jewish. His wife, and he's in his mid. He's in his he's like 61, 62. You know, and he's an amazing guy, and he has an amazing website, and he's a creative as well. He's a photographer, and he does, and he was saying that his wife is she's Swiss, and she has a Swiss passport. He said, so if things go really bad, I mean, she sounds, she kept her Swiss passport. She went to America when she was a kid, but they always kept their Swiss passport. And he said, if things get really bad, go to Switzerland. And I can imagine that. I mean, I so agree with you. People are rushing to go back to normal. And one of the kids in the film said normal wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I mean, how astute these? I'm not going to give away too many of the lines, but how astute were these young people? Don't you think they were just so? That's what surprised me, that how wise they were, and how no compromise in anything they said. They were very, very clear. They were very wow. It's like a razor. They just cut straight into it, and they didn't mess around. And I love that about them, and I love their openness, and I love their candidness. That's the word. But yeah, I agree with them, and I agree with you that absolutely, I agree with you that people are rushing to get back to the kind of normal it was, and it wasn't that great. And in America, do I believe? I predicted correctly, which for my sins, that Trump would win. And I was in Germany when it happened. And, I was with some friends, because I'm an ambassador for Leica, and we were just talking. We had to go out for dinner, and they said, Alfred, who do you think's going to win the election? And we did these bets, and I said, oh, I think Trump. And they were laughing at the dinner table so hard. They were, Alfred, that's so funny. I said, no, guys, I'm not joking. I really think that it's almost a biblical prediction that he's supposed to win to cause all this trouble and to be the, and I think he's kind of like, they say some parents have the kids they deserve, some countries have the leaders they deserve. And I don't know, it's what's the saying? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So I'm preparing that he's definitely going to win by an absolutely tiny, wafer thin margin, which is probably going to be fake. But I think he will. And then he'll try and change the mandate to have a kind of, not that I don't want to get into a political discussion, but I think he'll try and change the constitution so he'll be more like a dictatorship where he'll stay there. He'll be a leader till the end, until he can't do it anymore.
And I mean, on that note, I think then we'll need more films like I Still Breathe.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have a plan for number 2, but then I need to talk to you off camera about that. But then I've already started to get the wheels in motion by talking to a few people about it, and I think you're going to like the direction of it.
But I was going to ask you that if you can share a little bit of like what's next for you in terms of.
Oh. Well, that's the next short, which is going to be the other bookend to this, is something I can do. We did that film in 2 days. I mean, shooting it. One really long day and one half, almost long day, but we did it all. But the actual post and everything we did that film. 1, 2, 3. We were 8 days ahead of the schedule.
Wow.
The editor is a woman. Her name's Ense Asukwa. She's amazing. She was great, and we've had some wonderful people on it. And my friend Oscar winner John Warhurst did the sound design, and Nikki Brown was a score, and everybody really works. It was just a joy. But next there is a biopic.
You like biopic?
But it's not a documentary; it's a drama.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I want to move. I will do another doc, but I want to move into drama. That's my next step, because I love working with people. That's the thing I love, getting the best performances and the best things out of people. So And I've worked with actors back in the day for my sins, so I know the temperaments that you have to deal with, and the fragile, ego for some, and some of them are so giving and so amazing. So I know the personalities there. So next is probably a biopic, and then there's a series as well that I'm working on, which we can talk off camera about that. But yeah, definitely there's a lot going on, and that's why it's exciting times, and I think the one thing I want to say to everybody is that because of lockdown, actually, I've never been so busy in my whole life. The first 4 weeks was quite quiet. It was like, hey, beautiful weather. It was perfect weather. But actually, it was perfect weather for like 8 weeks, and then it all changed. But I just thought I'm not going to sit around doing nothing. So I started to, do rewrites to the scripts I'm working on, and reaching out to people and making plans for 2022, 23, 24. Any kind of so-called normality won't happen until, I reckon, middle of the decade. That's what I think. I think it's 22, it'll start to change. 23, it'll be feel like a bit like normal. It'll be different, but it'll be better than it is now.
So we just need to kind of use this energy and kind of start thinking about our next projects. Alfred, I will stop the Q&A here. We can stay on the call.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
No, listen, thank you. I'm so honored, and thank you for having the film. It's been an amazing project, and we just hope it's at the end of the day, it's a message of hope, and I hope people see that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.